I've never been the kind of guy who expects the world to stop spinning just for me. Life's been good enough, steady job, decent house, a family that gets by. But turning 40? That felt different. For weeks, Brielle kept dropping these little hints, her voice all playful and mysterious, saying, "Just wait, Julian. Something big is coming." I'd catch her smiling at me over breakfast, her brown eyes sparkling like she was hiding a secret she couldn't wait to spill. Skylar, my 19-year-old daughter, would nudge me at the dinner table and ask weird questions like, "Dad, what's your favorite cake flavor?" Maddox, my 21-year-old son, even checked my work schedule, asking what days I'd be off. I'm a construction supervisor, so my hours are long, but I started thinking maybe they were planning something. A surprise party, maybe? A nice dinner out? I didn't need much, just a little sign they cared. I let myself hope, you know? I let that tiny spark grow in my chest as my birthday got closer. I'd come home from work, tired and dusty, picturing balloons or a happy birthday banner taped to the living room wall. So, on the big day, March 29th, 2025, I pulled my truck into the driveway, my heart beating a little faster than usual. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky orange, and I sat there for a second, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself not to get too excited. I grabbed my lunchbox and stepped out, the gravel crunching under my boots as I walked up to the front door. I turned the key, pushed it open, and nothing. The house was dark, silent, empty. No warm smell of food hit me. No laughter or footsteps rushing to greet me. The living room stretched out in front of me, bare, no decorations, no candles, no nothing. I flicked on the light, half expecting someone to jump out and yell, "Surprise." But the switch just buzzed, and the bulb hummed to life, showing me the truth. The couch sat there, same as always. The TV was off. The kitchen counter was clean. No cake, no plates, no mess of a party being prepped. I dropped my lunchbox on the table, the thud echoing in the quiet, and stood there, staring at the empty space where my family should have been. My phone stayed silent in my pocket. No texts, no calls, no, "Hey, we're running late." I walked through the house, my work boots leaving faint dirt marks on the hardwood. Upstairs, the beds were made. Skylar's room smelled like her lavender spray, but her backpack was gone. Maddox's sneakers weren't by the door. Brielle's purse, the one she always leaves on the hall table, wasn't there. I checked the garage, her car was missing. My stomach twisted, heavy and sour, like I'd swallowed a rock. I told myself maybe they were out getting something last minute. Maybe they'd pull in any second, headlights flashing, full of apologies and excuses. I sat on the couch, still in my dusty jacket, and waited. 5 minutes turned into 10. 10 turned into 30. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had before, each second slicing into that dumb hope I'd been carrying. I leaned back, rubbed my face, and felt the weight of 40 years settle on me. Not the milestone I'd imagined, but something else. Something cold. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, popped it open, and took a long sip, the bitter taste matching the ache starting to spread in my chest. They weren't coming. I knew it then, deep down, even if I didn't want to admit it. I'd spent weeks building up this moment in my head, picturing their faces, their voices, some kind of celebration to mark me hitting the big 4-0. But the house stayed quiet, and that silence told me everything. I wasn't worth the effort. Not to them. I set the beer down, my hand shaking just a little, and stared at the blank TV screen. My reflection staring back, tired eyes, gray creeping into my beard, a guy who thought he mattered. 40 years old, and this was it. An empty house, a warm beer, and a family that didn't even leave a note. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact they forgot or the fact I'd let myself believe they wouldn't. Either way, I wasn't moving from that couch. Not yet. I'd wait a little longer, just in case. But that spark? It was gone. Snuffed out by the dark, quiet truth of my birthday night. 3 hours after I sat down on that couch, the beer was warm in my hand, and the house was still as empty as a ghost town. I'd been staring at the wall, trying to figure out what I did wrong, why nobody bothered to even call. My phone sat on the coffee table, screen black, mocking me with its silence. I checked it a dozen times, nothing. No missed calls, no texts, just the same old lock screen of me and Brielle from last summer, smiling at some barbecue. I didn't want to feel sorry for myself, but damn, it was hard not to. 40 years old, and this was my big day? I grabbed my phone again, more out of habit than hope, and opened Instagram. I don't usually scroll much, too many ads and fake smiles, but something told me to look. And there it was, staring me in the face like a punch to the gut. A photo of Brielle, Skylar, Maddox, and her parents, Greg and Rochelle, all grinning on a beach. White sand stretched out behind them, waves crashing in, the sun setting all golden and perfect. Brielle had a cocktail in her hand, her sunglasses pushed up on her head, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Skylar was splashing in the water, her hair wet and wild. Maddox stood there, shirt off, holding a beer, smirking at the camera. Greg and Rochelle were lounging in chairs, looking smug as ever. The caption under Maddox's post hit me like a brick. "You won't even notice we're gone, LOL." I read it again, then a third time, just to make sure I wasn't seeing things. My own son wrote that. My family, my whole damn family, was at some fancy resort, living it up, while I sat here in the dark. And they thought it was funny. I scrolled through more posts. Skylar had a story up, her sipping a drink with a little umbrella, tagging some place called Paradise Cove Resort. Brielle posted a selfie with Rochelle, captioned, "Family time is the best time. Family time. Without me." I dropped the phone on the couch like it burned me and stood up, my legs shaky. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing it, and my hands clenched into fists. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the cabinet, the good stuff Brielle got me for Christmas, and poured a glass. No ice, no mixer, just straight. I took a big gulp, the burn sliding down my throat, and leaned against the counter, staring at the floor. They didn't forget. That's what got me. This wasn't some accident, some last-minute thing where they meant to call but didn't. They planned this. They packed bags, got on a plane, and left me behind, laughing about it like I was some joke. I pictured them at the airport, checking in, probably saying stuff like, "Oh, Julian's fine, he's always working anyway." I took another sip, slower this time, letting it sit on my tongue. The house felt bigger than ever, the silence pressing in from every corner. I walked back to the couch, whiskey in hand, and picked up the phone again. I zoomed in on the photo, Maddox's stupid grin, Skylar's carefree wave, Brielle's easy laugh. They looked happy, happier than they ever did here with me. I set the glass down and rubbed my eyes, feeling the sting of something I wouldn't call tears, not yet. I wanted to text them. I wanted to call and yell, "What the hell is this? It's my birthday." But I didn't. What would I even say? Come home? Explain? They'd just laugh more, or worse, feel sorry for me. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want their excuses. I scrolled back to Maddox's caption, "He won't even notice we're gone, LOL," and it played over and over in my head like a bad song. He was wrong, though. I noticed. I noticed every second of it. The whiskey bottle sat there, half empty now, and I poured another glass, my hands steadier this time. I wasn't mad, not the loud, yelling kind of mad. It was quieter, deeper, like a fire starting low in my gut. They thought I wouldn't care. They thought I'd just shrug and go to bed like nothing happened. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I took a sip, leaned back, and let the silence wrap around me. They were wrong about me, and I'd make sure they knew it. Not tonight, though. Tonight, I'd sit here, drink my whiskey, and let that fire grow. Tomorrow? That was another story. The whiskey bottle was nearly empty by the time I decided sitting around feeling sorry for myself wasn't enough. It was past midnight, my birthday officially over, and the house still echoed with that hollow silence. I wasn't drunk, not really, just buzzed enough to feel the edges of my anger sharpen. Maddox's caption kept bouncing around in my head. "He won't even notice we're gone, LOL." They thought I was blind, some dumb workhorse who'd just keep plodding along, too busy or too stupid to see what they were doing. But I saw it all now, clear as day, and I wasn't going to let it slide. I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table, flipped it open, and started digging. First, I went back to Instagram, saving every post and story they'd put up, Brielle's selfies, Skylar's beach videos, Maddox's smug little updates. I took screenshots, noting the timestamps. They'd been gone at least 2 days, maybe more, based on the resort's check-in pics. Then I pulled up our joint bank account online. I'm the one who usually handles the bills, keeps the numbers straight, so I knew exactly where to look. My stomach dropped when I saw it. A $3,800 withdrawal, dated 3 days ago. Cash, not a card swipe, sneaky, like they didn't want a trail. I leaned back, rubbing my jaw, thinking about how I'd just given Maddox the same amount last month for a deposit on his new apartment. He'd hugged me, said, "Thanks, Dad, you're the best." I'd felt good about it, proud even. Now, it looked like that money funded their little getaway. I kept scrolling through the bank records, my fingers moving faster as the pieces clicked together. There were small charges too, gas, a coffee shop near the airport, but nothing big enough to explain a resort trip. That's when I remembered Brielle's emergency credit card, the one she said was for unexpected stuff like car repairs. She kept the statements in a drawer in our bedroom, tucked under some old tax files like I'd never bothered to check. I got up, the whiskey buzzing in my veins, and headed upstairs. The drawer squeaked as I pulled it open, and there it was, a stack of envelopes from a card I didn't even have the number for. I ripped one open, dated last month, and started reading. My eyes widened as the charges piled up. $1,200 at a spa, $800 at some fancy clothing store, $450 for lunch with Rochelle at a place I'd never even heard of. Month after month, it was the same, thousands racked up on stuff she never mentioned. The latest statement, unopened, showed new charges for $1,500 at Paradise Cove Resort, plus a couple hundred more for extras. $92,000 total, spread over a year. I dropped the papers on the bed, my hands shaking, not from the whiskey, but from the weight of it all. This wasn't just a birthday snub. This was a whole secret life. I went back downstairs, grabbed a notebook, and started writing it all down. Dates, amounts, everything. The reliable Julian Hartley, the guy who clocked in early and stayed late, who paid the mortgage and fixed the leaks, had been erased. They'd turned me into a walking ATM, a shadow they could step over while they sipped cocktails and laughed. I poured the last of the whiskey, staring at my messy handwriting, the numbers glaring back at me. I didn't cry. I'm not the crying type, but my throat felt tight, like I couldn't swallow right. I thought about the years I'd spent building this life, the overtime I worked so Skylar could go to college, the weekends I gave up to keep us afloat. And for what? So they could jet off and mock me? I flipped the notebook shut and leaned back, the couch creaking under me. The anger wasn't loud anymore. It was cold, steady, like a river carving through rock. I wasn't going to yell or smash things. That's not who I am. But I was done being invisible. I'd been the guy who kept quiet, who let things slide, who trusted too much. Not anymore. I took a slow sip of whiskey, letting it burn, and made a promise to myself right there in the dark. They'd remember me, not the old Julian, the one they walked all over, but this one, the forgotten one, the one who'd been watching all along. And I'd start by making sure they couldn't hide from what they'd done. Not from me. Not ever again. 2 days after my birthday, I woke up to the same quiet house, the same empty feeling sitting heavy in my chest. The whiskey bottle was still on the counter, a reminder of that first night, but I didn't touch it again. I'd spent the last 48 hours keeping busy, work, grocery runs, anything to keep my mind off the hole my family had left. I didn't call them. I didn't text. I'd seen enough on Instagram to know they were still at that resort, probably lounging by the pool while I ate cold leftovers alone. My phone stayed quiet too. No apologies, no check-ins, nothing. It was like I didn't exist. But that changed on the second day. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through channels I didn't care about, when my phone started buzzing. WhatsApp lit up with a flood of messages, one after another, like they'd all remembered me at once. I picked it up, my thumb hovering over the screen, not sure I even wanted to look. The first one was from Brielle. Julian, where are you? Like I was the one who'd disappeared. Then Skylar, Dad, are you okay? Please answer. Maddox chimed in with, Yo, Dad, what's up? You good? I scrolled through 49 messages total, piling up over a few hours. Voice notes too, Skylar's voice, soft and shaky, saying, Dad, I'm worried. Just let us know you're fine. Brielle sent a longer one later. Julian, please don't shut me out. We're flying back early. Talk to me. I sat there, staring at the screen, the words blurring together. Part of me wanted to feel something, relief, maybe, or even anger, but I didn't. It was too late for that. They'd had days to reach out, and now, what? They were scared I'd gone off the deep end? I set the phone down and leaned back, my hands resting on my knees. The house creaked around me, the fridge humming in the kitchen. I could have answered. Could have typed back. I'm here. Where the hell were you? But I didn't. They didn't deserve that yet. Instead, I got an idea. I grabbed my phone again, opened Instagram, and flipped through my camera roll. There wasn't much, just some work pics, a shot of my truck, and then one from yesterday. I'd stopped at the grocery store after my shift, picked up a cheap chocolate cake from the bakery section. It was small, kind of sad-looking, with happy birthday scribbled in messy icing. I'd taken a picture of myself holding it in the kitchen. No smile, just me, and the cake under the fluorescent light. I hadn't planned to post it, didn't even eat the damn thing, but now it felt right. I uploaded it, no filter, no caption, no tags, just the timestamp, March 28th, 2025, 7:42 p.m. I hit post and watched it go live. It wasn't about being petty. It wasn't some big screw you to them. It was a marker, a quiet little flag in the ground saying, I'm still here. I see you. And I'm not the one who's missing. I tossed the phone on the cushion next to me and stood up, stretching my arms over my head. My back popped from too many hours on the couch, and I walked to the window, peering out at the dark street. The neighbors' lights were on, warm and yellow, families inside doing normal stuff. My house felt like a shell, but I wasn't sad about it, not anymore. Those 49 messages kept buzzing in my mind, though. They weren't apologies. Not really. They were panic, maybe guilt, but not remorse. Brielle's "don't shut me out" stuck with me the most. She didn't get it. I wasn't shutting her out. She locked me out days ago, and now she wanted back in like nothing happened. I shook my head, a dry laugh slipping out. Skylar's voice note played in my head too, her worry tugging at me a little. She's my girl, always has been, but even she'd gone along with this. Maddox? He'd probably just shrug it off if I called him out. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and leaned against the counter, sipping it slow. My phone buzzed again, another message, probably number 50, but I ignored it. They'd see the post soon enough. They'd know I wasn't sulking or lost. I was right here, watching, waiting. The cake sat on the counter still, untouched, the icing starting to crack. I didn't need it. Didn't need their rushed words either. What I needed was something they couldn't give me yet, answers. And I'd get them, one way or another. For now, I'd let them squirm. Let them wonder. Because I wasn't the guy they thought I was anymore. Not after this. 3 days after my birthday, I was sitting in the living room, the TV on low, some dumb game show buzzing in the background. I hadn't answered any of those 49 messages, hadn't called back, hadn't even looked at my phone much since I posted that cake picture. It was late afternoon, the sun slanting through the blinds, casting stripes across the carpet. I'd just gotten home from work, still in my dusty jacket, when the doorbell rang. It wasn't a soft knock. It was sharp, insistent, like someone who didn't want to be ignored. I stood up slow, my boots heavy on the floor, and walked to the door. I didn't know what I expected, but my gut told me it was them. I turned the knob and pulled it open, and there they were, Brielle, Skylar, Maddox, and her parents, Greg and Rochelle, all standing on my porch like some awkward family portrait. Brielle was in front, holding a shiny gift bag, her smile tight and fake, the kind she uses when she's nervous. Skylar and Maddox hung back, Skylar picking at her nails, Maddox staring at his shoes. Greg and Rochelle stood there like they owned the place, Greg's arms crossed, Rochelle's lips pursed. I didn't say a word, just leaned against the doorframe, looking at them, letting the silence stretch out. Brielle shifted her weight, the gift bag crinkling in her hands. Julian, she started, her voice too bright. We're back. We wanted to see you. I didn't move, didn't nod, just kept my eyes on her. She faltered, then held up the bag like it was a peace offering. I got you something. For your birthday. I glanced at it, probably some overpriced shirt or watch she thought would fix this. I didn't take it. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened Instagram. I held it up, Maddox's post right there on the screen. He won't even notice we're gone, LOL. I turned it so they could all see, my thumb resting on the edge. The air changed, like someone sucked the oxygen out of it. Brielle's smile dropped. Skylar's head snapped up, her eyes wide. Maddox shifted, muttering something under his breath. Greg cleared his throat, but I didn't give him a chance to speak. I looked straight at him, his smug face all red from the sun, and said, "You're not welcome here." My voice was calm, low, but it cut through the tension like a blade. Greg blinked, his mouth opening, then closing. Rochelle stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Now, Julian, that's uncalled for." I didn't let her finish. I said what I said. "You don't get to walk in here. Not after this." I nodded at the phone, then stepped aside, holding the door open just enough for Brielle and the kids. "You three can come in." "They can't." Brielle hesitated, glancing back at her parents, but I didn't budge. Greg huffed, turning to Rochelle like he expected her to fight me, but she just glared, her hands on her hips. After a long second, Brielle nodded at Skylar and Maddox, and they shuffled past me into the house. I shut the door behind them, leaving Greg and Rochelle standing there, their shadows still on the porch. Inside, the living room felt smaller with them in it. Skylar sat on the edge of the couch, her knees bouncing. Maddox leaned against the wall, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. Brielle stood in the middle, still clutching that gift bag like it was a lifeline. I walked past her, set my phone on the coffee table, and turned to face them. "So," I said, my hands in my pockets, "how was the beach?" Brielle flinched, her mouth opening, then closing. Skylar looked like she might cry, her fingers twisting together. Maddox shrugged, mumbling, "It was fine." I nodded, letting that sit for a second. "Fine," I repeated. "Good to know." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. The weight of it was already there, pressing down on them. Brielle took a step toward me, her voice soft. "Julian, we didn't mean for it to be like this. It was supposed to be." I held up a hand, stopping her. "Don't. Not yet." I looked at Skylar, her big eyes all watery, then at Maddox, his jaw tight. "You're here now. That's something. But them." I jerked my head toward the door. "They don't get a pass. And neither do you, not yet." I sat down in my chair, the one by the window, and picked up the remote, turning the TV off. The room went quiet, just the sound of their breathing and the faint hum of the fridge. They wanted to talk, to explain, but I wasn't ready to hear it. Not until I knew they felt this, really felt it. I'd let them in, sure, but this house wasn't their playground anymore. It was mine, and I was done being the guy they could leave behind. The air in the kitchen felt thick as I stood there, facing Brielle, Skylar, and Maddox. They'd followed me in after I shut the door on Greg and Rochelle, and now we were here, the four of us crammed around the table like some messed-up family meeting. I'd grabbed a folder from the counter, the one I'd been filling with everything I'd found. Bank statements, screenshots, credit card charges. It was heavy in my hands, heavier than it should have been, and I dropped it on the table with a thud. The sound made Skylar jump, her eyes darting to it like it might bite her. Brielle sat down slow, still holding that stupid gift bag, while Maddox stayed standing, his arms crossed tight. I didn't sit. I stood there, looking at them, and finally asked the question that had been burning in me since I saw that Instagram post. "When did I become invisible to you?" My voice was steady, quieter than I felt, but it hit them hard. Brielle's head snapped up, her mouth opening like she had an answer ready, but nothing came out at first. Skylar stared at the table, her fingers tracing the wood grain. Maddox shifted his weight, his jaw clenching. I opened the folder, spreading out the papers. $3,800 withdrawn from our savings, $92,000 racked up on that secret card, resort charges stamped with dates that lined up with my birthday. I pointed at Maddox's post, the LOL glaring up at us. "You think this is funny?" I said, tapping it with my finger. "You think leaving me here while you're all off sipping drinks is a joke?" Brielle found her voice then, leaning forward, her hands clasped tight. "Julian, it wasn't like that. We were going to surprise you, do something when we got back. It got out of hand, that's all." Her words sounded rehearsed, like she'd been practicing them on the plane. I didn't buy it. I flipped to a screenshot of her texting Rochelle weeks ago, found it in her old phone I dug out of the closet, saying, "He'll be fine, Mom. Let's just go." I held it up, watching her face go pale. "This doesn't look like a surprise to me," I said. "This looks like you plan to ditch me." Maddox piped up then, his voice rough. "Dad, it was just a dumb post. I didn't mean it like that." I turned to him, my eyes narrowing. "You didn't mean it? You wrote it, Maddox. You laughed about it. You took my money I gave you for your place, and spent it on this." He looked away, his shoulders slumping, but he didn't argue. Skylar started crying then, soft little sobs that made my chest ache. She's always been the sensitive one, my little girl who'd climb into my lap when she was scared. "Dad," she said, her voice breaking, "it was supposed to be for you too. We were all going to go, me, you, Mom, Maddox." But then Grandpa said, she trailed off, wiping her eyes. I leaned in, my hands flat on the table. "Said what, Skylar?" She swallowed hard, glancing at Brielle, who wouldn't meet my gaze. "He said you'd bring down the vibe. Bet you're always so serious, and it'd be more fun without you." The words landed like a hammer, cracking something inside me. I straightened up, looking at Brielle. "Is that true?" She didn't answer right away, just stared at the table, her fingers twisting together. "Julian, it wasn't my idea," she finally said, her voice small. "Dad kept pushing, and I didn't know how to say no." I let out a dry laugh, shaking my head. "You didn't know how to say no? To your dad? But you knew how to say no to me, how to leave me out, how to take our money and run off with them." I flipped the folder shut, the snap of it loud in the quiet. "I've been working my ass off for this family, for you, for the kids. And this is what I get? You let Greg decide I'm not worth it. Skylar reached for my hand, her fingers cold. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be like this. I looked at her, saw the truth in her eyes. She meant it. But it didn't erase the hurt. Maddox mumbled something that might have been sorry, but he still wouldn't look at me. Brielle stood up, stepping closer. Julian, we can fix this. Please. I stepped back, out of her reach. Fix it? You don't fix something you broke on purpose. I grabbed the folder, holding it up. This is what you did. You don't get to walk in here with a gift bag and some tears and make it go away. The room went still, just Skylar's sniffles and the faint hum of the fridge. I looked at them, my wife, my kids, and felt the betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. They'd chosen Greg's version of fun over me, and I wasn't sure I could forgive that yet. After that showdown in the kitchen, I didn't sleep much. The house felt different now, like it wasn't theirs anymore, just mine. Brielle, Skylar, and Maddox had left the room quiet. Skylar still crying, Maddox slinking off to his old bedroom, Brielle hovering like she wanted to say more but didn't dare. I'd laid it all out, the money, the lies, the way they'd made me feel, and I wasn't backing down. The next morning, I got up early, the sun barely up, and started making changes. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, laptop open, and pulled up our bank accounts. My hands moved fast, clicking through screens, setting up a new account in just my name. I transferred half our savings, enough to cover 3 months of the mortgage and utilities, into it, leaving the rest for Brielle to figure out. She'd have to start pulling her weight now. I canceled the joint credit card, the one she thought I didn't know about, and set up a direct payment for Skylar's college tuition so it'd go straight to the school. No more middleman, no more chances for that money to disappear. By the time the coffee was cold, I'd drawn a line in the sand. I wasn't kicking them out, not yet, but things were going to be different. Brielle came downstairs around 8, her hair messy, as puffy like she hadn't slept either. She stopped in the doorway, watching me pack up my laptop. Julian, what are you doing? She asked, her voice shaky. I didn't look up, just kept stacking papers. Making sure I'm not invisible anymore, I said. You're in the guest room from now on. Separate accounts. You pay half the bills. Skylar's tuition's covered, but that's it. No more free rides. Her face crumpled, but I kept going. And I changed the locks. You'll get a key when I know you're serious about this. She stared at me, mouth open, then sank into a chair. Julian, this is crazy. We can talk about this. I cut her off, standing up. We talked last night. You didn't listen then. Now you will. I grabbed my keys and headed to the garage, leaving her there. At the hardware store, I bought new deadbolts, heavy ones, and spent the morning installing them. The drill buzzed in my hands, the sound drowning out the noise in my head. Maddox came down as I was finishing the back door, his hair sticking up, still in yesterday's clothes. Dad, what's with the locks? He asked, rubbing his eyes. I tightened the last screw and stood up, brushing sawdust off my jeans. It's my house too, I said. You want in, you knock. You want to stay, you start acting like it. He frowned, but didn't argue, just shuffled back upstairs. Skylar was different. She came out later, her eyes red but dry now, and sat on the porch step while I tested the new key. Dad, she said, her voice small, I don't want you to hate me. I stopped, looking at her, my little girl all grown up and caught in this mess. I don't hate you, I said, softer than I meant to, but I can't trust you yet. You've got to show me you mean it. She nodded, hugging her knees, and I felt that old ache for her, the one that never goes away. I finished up and went inside, resetting the Wi-Fi password next, something simple, Julian 40, but they wouldn't guess it. Brielle tried to talk again when I came back in, following me to the living room. This isn't you, Julian. Locking us out, splitting everything, it's not fair. I turned to her, my hands in my pockets. Fair? You took our money, left me here, let your dad call me dead weight. That's not fair. This is me surviving. She flinched, but I didn't stop. You want to fix it? Earn it. Respect's gone. You've got to bring it back. She didn't say anything, just stood there, tears welling up. Maddox stormed out then, grabbing his jacket. This is bullshit. Dad, he snapped. I'm out. He slammed the door, the new lock clicking behind him. I didn't chase him. He'd figure it out or he wouldn't. Skylar stayed, though, hovering near me the rest of the day, helping with small stuff, bringing me a screwdriver, making coffee. She didn't say much, but she was there, and that was something. By night, the house felt solid again, locked up tight, mine in a way it hadn't been before. Brielle moved her stuff to the guest room without a word, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. I sat on the couch, the new key in my hand, and looked around. This wasn't revenge, it was a wall, a boundary carved in stone. They'd have to climb it if they wanted back in. And I'd be watching, waiting to see if they could. A week after I changed the locks, things settled into a strange new normal. Brielle stayed in the guest room, quiet and distant, coming and going without much talk. Skylar stuck around more, her presence soft but steady, like she was trying to glue something back together. Maddox hadn't come back since he stormed out, and I didn't push him, let him cool off, figure out what he wanted. I kept busy with work, the construction site a welcome distraction, the noise of hammers and saws drowning out the mess at home. But trouble showed up again on a Saturday morning, right when I thought I could breathe. I was in the garage, tinkering with my truck's oil filter, when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out, squinting against the sun. Greg's silver SUV sat there, engine still running, and he climbed out, his face red and tight like he'd been stewing all week. Rochelle stayed in the passenger seat, her arms crossed, glaring through the windshield. I leaned against the garage door, rag in hand, and waited. He marched up, stopping a few feet away, his voice loud enough to wake the neighbors. "Julian, what the hell do you think you're doing?" he barked. "Locking my daughter out, cutting her off. You're destroying this family." I didn't flinch, just looked at him, letting him puff himself up. He was taller than me, broader too, but I wasn't intimidated. "Not anymore." "Destroying it?" I said, keeping my tone even. "Funny, I thought that started when you took them all to a resort and left me behind." He waved a hand, dismissing me. "That was a trip. A break. You're blowing this out of proportion, acting like some midlife crisis nutcase." I stepped forward then, closing the gap just enough to make him shift back. "A break," I repeated. "How much did it cost, Greg? That little break?" He blinked, caught off guard, then shrugged. "I don't know, about $7,500. What's that got to do with anything?" I nodded, letting that number hang there, then said, "I put $25,000 into Skylar's education last year. Paid for her books, her dorm, her classes. What VE you done for her future?" His mouth opened, then shut, his face going redder. I didn't stop. "You don't get to stand here and lecture me about family. You decided I wasn't worth bringing along, convinced Brielle I'd ruin your fun. And now you're mad I'm not rolling over for it?" Rochelle climbed out of the car then, her heels clicking on the pavement. "Julian, you're being ridiculous," she snapped. "Brielle's a wreck because of you. She's saying you're cold, unreasonable." I cut her off, my voice sharp now. "She's a wreck because she got caught. You don't get to spin this on me." Greg took a step closer, pointing a finger. "You watch how you talk to us. We're her parents, and I'm her husband." I shot back. Or I was, until you helped her forget that. They stood there, fuming, but I didn't back down. I'd had enough of their high-and-mighty act. "Go home," I said, turning back to the garage. "This isn't your fight." Greg huffed, muttering something about me being ungrateful, then stormed back to the car. Rochelle followed, throwing one last glare over her shoulder. They peeled out, tires squealing, and I watched them go, the rag still clenched in my fist. Later that day, I checked Facebook, should have known better, and saw Brielle's latest post. Sometimes people change, and not for the better. Midlife, it's hard. A dozen likes, a few sad emojis, comments from her friends saying, "Stay strong, girl." I stared at it, the words twisting in my gut. She was painting me as the bad guy, the cold one, like I'd snapped for no reason. I could have posted something back, dumped the receipts, the screenshots, the truth, but I didn't. Let her have her story. The people who mattered knew what happened. My buddy Pete from work called that night, asking if I was okay. He'd seen the post. "She's full of it," he said. "We all know you, man. You don't flip out over nothing." I thanked him, hung up, and sat on the couch, the house quiet again. Skylar came down a little later, curling up next to me with a mug of tea. "Dad," she said, "I don't care what Mom says. You're not the one who's wrong." I put an arm around her, feeling her lean into me, and nodded. "Thanks, kid." I didn't need the world to see it. I had the folder, the facts, the loyalty of the ones who stuck around. Greg could yell, Brielle could post, but I knew the truth. And that was enough for now. Weeks had passed since Greg's blow-up in the driveway, and the house had settled into a rhythm I could live with. It wasn't peaceful, exactly. More like a ceasefire, everyone figuring out where they stood. Brielle stayed in the guest room, coming and going with her head down, her words short and careful. Skylar was around a lot, popping in after classes, Her quiet company a lifeline I didn't know I needed. Maddox, though, he'd been a ghost since he stormed out, and I let him be. He's my son, sure, but he's a man now, and men have to face their choices. Then one Tuesday, my phone rang while I was eating lunch at the construction site, a sandwich in one hand, dust all over my boots. It was Maddox. I set the sandwich down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and answered. "Dad," he said, his voice low, "can we talk?" I leaned against the truck, the sun hot on my neck. "Yeah," I said. "What's up?" He hesitated, then, "I'm in a jam. Rent's due, and I'm short. Can you help?" I didn't answer right away, just listened to the hum of the site around me. Drills whining, guys shouting. Part of me wanted to say no, let him sink a little, feel the weight of that LOL he'd thrown at me. But he was still my kid. "Come by tonight," I said. "We'll figure it out." He showed up around 7, his hoodie wrinkled, hair a mess, looking like he hadn't slept. I let him in, the new lock clicking behind us, and we sat at the kitchen table. "How short are you?" I asked, pouring him a glass of water. He stared at it, not drinking. 600. I thought I had it, but work cut my hours. I nodded, pulling out my laptop. "All right, we're not just throwing money at it, though. Show me what you've got, bills, pay stubs, all of it." He blinked, surprised, but dug into his backpack, pulling out crumpled papers. We spent an hour going through it. His rent, his phone bill, the little he'd saved. I showed him how I'd always done it for the house, tracking every dollar, making it stretch. "See this?" I said, pointing at the screen. "You plan ahead, you don't get stuck." He nodded, slow, like it was sinking in. By the end, we'd made a spreadsheet. Nothing fancy, just numbers and rows. I gave him the 600 cash from my new account, but I made him write it down. "You owe me," I said. "Not because I'm mad, just so you learn." He looked at me then, really looked, and said, "I get it, Dad." He didn't say sorry, not out loud, but later that night, I noticed his Instagram was gone. No posts, no profile, just a blank space where that caption used to be. He asked if he could come by Sundays, just to hang out, and I said yeah, feeling something shift between us. Skylar kept coming too, her visits more regular now. She'd sit with me on the couch, watching old movies, or help in the garage, handing me tools while I fixed stuff. One night, she hugged me tight before leaving, whispering, "I'm glad you're my dad." It hit me hard, that little crack of light in all this dark. Brielle, though, she was still a puzzle. Some days, she'd try nostalgia, talking about when we met, how we'd laughed over cheap pizza. Other days, she'd blame me, saying I'd pushed her away with the locks and the accounts. I didn't bite either way. "You pushed first," I'd say, and she'd go quiet, retreating to her room. I wasn't holding my breath for her to change. She liked her story too much, the one where I was the problem. But I didn't need her to see me anymore. Maddox's Sundays turned into a routine, him showing up with coffee, us working on his budget or just talking. He didn't say much about the trip, but I could tell he was carrying it, that guilt simmering under his tough act. Skylar stayed caught in the middle, loving us both, but she picked me more often, her loyalty clear in the way she'd linger. The fractures were still there, big ones, jagged and raw, but these first steps, these moments with my kids, felt like something solid. I'd let Brielle figure her own path. I'd already let go of needing her to come back. The kids, though, they were enough to keep me going, enough to start rebuilding on. A month after my 40th birthday, I woke up to a quiet house, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty anymore, just still, like the world's holding its breath. It was a Saturday, the sun creeping through the blinds, painting the living room in soft gold. I sat up on the couch where I'd fallen asleep, a blanket tangled around my legs, the TV off for once. My coffee mug from last night sat cold on the table, next to my phone, which buzzed with a new email. I rubbed my eyes, stretched, and picked it up. It was from my divorce lawyer. Short, simple, saying Brielle's attorney had reached out. No fight, no drama, just paperwork moving forward. I set the phone down, leaned back, and let that sink in. It wasn't a shock. Brielle and I hadn't really been together since she came back, not in any real way. The guest room, the separate accounts, the way we barely talked, it was all leading here. I didn't feel sad, though. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I felt clear, like I could see myself again, not just the guy who paid bills or fixed things, but me, Julian Hartley, a man who'd made it through the mess. I got up, made fresh coffee, and stood by the kitchen window, watching the street wake up. Kids rode bikes. A neighbor waved as he mowed his lawn. My truck sat in the driveway, dusty but solid, like me. I thought about that night a month ago, the dark house, the whiskey, the Instagram post that started it all. It felt far away now, like it happened to someone else. I'd changed since then, not loud or flashy, but deep, in a way I could feel in my bones. Later that day, I opened my laptop and logged into Facebook. My status still said, married, but that didn't fit anymore. I clicked edit, my fingers hovering, then typed, it's complicated. I hit save, watched it update, and sat back. It wasn't a big statement. No one needed the details, but it was true. Life was complicated. Family was messy. Love left scars. Some you could see, some you couldn't. I scrolled through my feed, saw a picture Skylar posted last night. Her and me in the garage, me holding a wrench, her laughing. Best dad ever, she'd captioned it. I smiled. A real one, the kind that warms you up inside. Maddox had texted earlier too, saying he'd be by tomorrow with coffee, like always. They were still here, my kids, picking up the pieces with me. Brielle was upstairs, probably packing more of her stuff. She'd been moving things out bit by bit. No fuss, just quiet steps away. I didn't stop her. She'd made her choice long before the papers came, and I'd made mine. I walked outside, the air cool on my face, and sat on the porch steps. The neighborhood buzzed around me, alive and normal, and I felt part of it again, not stuck, not invisible. I thought about the last month, Greg's yelling, Brielle's stories, the way Skylar and Maddox came back, slow but sure. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. My phone buzzed again, a text from Pete, my work buddy. Saw the status. You good, man? I typed back, yeah, better than good. He sent a thumbs up, and I put the phone down, looking out at the street. 40 wasn't what I'd expected. No party, no big celebration, but it gave me something better. Clarity. I could see myself now, not as the guy they forgot, but as the one who stood up, who claimed his place. Skylar saw it. She stuck by me. Maddox was starting too. His Sunday visits proof he wasn't running anymore. Even my crew at work noticed, one of them saying last week, "You seem different, Hartley." Lighter. I was. The weight of being invisible, of carrying them all without them knowing, was gone. I let it go, piece by piece, and built something new. The divorce wasn't a loss. It was a door closing so I could open another. I stood up, brushed off my jeans, and went back inside. The house smelled like coffee, like home, and I grabbed my mug, taking a long sip. I didn't need balloons or a cake. I didn't need Brielle's gift bag or Greg's approval. Being seen by my kids, my friends, and most of all, by myself, was the gift I'd claimed. 40 wasn't a milestone they gave me. It was one I took, and that was enough.